Ladies and Patreons, Andy here, day 244 of the Inner Winner Show. We are outside. There is no video. All you YouTube people can just look at this beautiful picture on the screen right now. It's a picture of my ass.
No.
It might be. I'm joined with Imogen.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to answer a Patreon's question. So if you guys don't know, you can go onto my Patreon, patreon.com/killyourinnerloser. And at the mid tiers and the higher tiers, you get to ask me questions, and I'll dedicate an entire podcast episode answering your questions.
Yeah.
So this is a question from a kinky little gentleman, dirty little boy,
Yeah.
very filthy young man,
Mm-hmm.
who wants to have sexual intercourse.
Whoa. It's a bit
Very
much.
disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm not it's not my right to judge, but fuck this guy, this is disgusting. But we're going to try and answer his questions here on how to have more of this sexual intercourse thing. It's not for me. It's not something that I enjoy or think is even appropriate in 2021, especially when we're in the middle of a global pandemic. Okay? But we're going to try and answer his question here on having sexual intercourse. And if anyone's unfamiliar, what I just did there is called dry humor. It's a type of joke. I want this guy to get mad pussy. So he's got an interesting question, and I'm going to try and paraphrase here. And like, you and I talked a little bit about it before we sat down, and this is the first time I've ever had you on one of these, as in a Patreon question. Normally I just dedicate the entire episode to myself.
It is.
But we kind of like, I thought like, we'll try a different format because you had some different ideas, some good suggestions on answering this question. So the question, essentially paraphrased, is how do I screen for girls who are not super experienced, but also not complete virgins? So this guy is basically at a point where he's had a fair bit of experience. I think he slept with about 10 girls at this point in time. But he still feels like he has a lot left to explore. He doesn't feel like Mr. Super confident in the bedroom. He's still kind of finding his footing, figuring out what he likes, figuring out how to be decent at sex, like all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So before, what he was doing was screening for really experienced women because he wanted a woman who could take the lead, who could show him, who could teach him. And I think what he found is the problem with that is a lot of older women, because he was just going for older women because they tend to be more experienced. A lot of older women are kind of at a point in their life where they know what they want and they're ready to settle down, or if they're going to do something casual, they at least want a guy who kind of already knows what he's doing because they've gone through that inexperienced period of their life, and now they're looking for a guy who can kind of match their skill level, so to speak.
Yeah, we've already spoken about this with one another. I think the male-female dynamic lends itself to, generally speaking, like it's more appealing for the man to be the one teaching, whereas women, I feel like that's...
And that's not every woman, but that's like the vast majority. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. So he's now at a point where he's basically saying, look, I want some less experienced, like not crazy experienced, because he feels like there's a bit of a disconnect there. If she's super experienced and he's kind of just starting out, but like he's done a little bit of stuff, but he's in the earlier stages rather than Mr. Super experienced, he feels like there's a bit of a disconnect. And I gather from his question, he wrote quite a lot. He gave a lot of context, but I think from his question and from talking to him myself, I think he feels somewhat that, let's just phrase it like I said, like a disconnect. And so he's basically saying, can I get with less experienced women? How do I go about doing that? Should I date younger women? Like, is that the best place to find that? Can I still date older women? Will there be older women who are less experienced? Because he doesn't really care so much about the age.
Yeah.
The question here is like women who are roughly at my experience level. And I know for a lot of guys, they won't have this preference. They'll be like, I don't care. I'll sleep with any woman. Like, I don't care. Maybe they prefer slightly less experienced women. Maybe some guys prefer slightly more. So this is a very specific question. Like, how do I actually screen for like roughly the same level as me? The second part of his question is, how do I actually do that? Like, do I need to say anything before I meet them? Do I need to say anything on Tinder? What about when I hit on them in person? What about on the date? What about, how do I dress? Do I change my pictures? So we'll answer those questions individually, but let's start with the first question. So he says, am I justified in having this preference, as in less experienced, or women who are at my experience level, which again is on the less experienced side? Or is this just like an unnecessary restriction I'm putting on myself? There is part of me that does think that, yes. Now, I get extra context because I know this guy. And so I have extra context that maybe the average listener wouldn't have. And so if I take that into account, then there are reasons why he wants girls who aren't crazy experienced.
Yeah.
Because it's intimidating to him. You know, it gives him like pressure in the bedroom. A lot of guys have that, to be fair. A lot of guys think like, you know, I don't want a woman that's crazy experienced because then I just feel like inadequate. And then, you know, I don't enjoy it as much. Fair enough. Fine.
Yeah. Well, I will say, like, with any preference, like, I guess gauging whether it's reasonable or not, I think you either had a podcast episode or an article that talked about the ebb and flow of standards.
Yeah,
So
you raise them, you lower them, depending on if you're happy where you're at. If you're happy with the number of women you're sleeping with.
Absolutely. So it may not be like, am I justified in wanting this? It may be a case of like, can I get what I'm looking for? Because you can have disgustingly high standards, but like if you're...
And they get nobody.
Yeah, and get absolutely nobody. But that being said, like if you're at a high enough level where like...
We have really stupidly high standards.
Yeah.
We're really fucking fussy because we can be. Because
Yeah.
we're happy.
And if you're appealing to enough people, then you can get what you want. But if you're finding that you can't, that probably means that maybe right now where you are at that point in time isn't justified. So you might need to, you know, be a bit more lenient with what you're after.
Yeah, and that would be the answer here. It's like, am I justified in having this preference? That's not even the right way of phrasing it. It's like, am I happy? Or you know, do it for a few months. You haven't started doing this yet, but start doing it for a month or two. Am I happy? Am I getting any girls?
Yeah. Can I, like, is this like happening? Can I get what I want?
And even that's a bad statement because sometimes you don't get any girls for a month or two and you're like, I don't care. I'm just going to keep hustling. Like, as long as you're not deluding yourself. And this guy's very self-aware. Ask yourself the question of, am I happy with my current results? And so if you do screen, we're talking about screening here. If you do screen harder and you only go for girls roughly at your experience level, but you get one or two a month and you're reasonably happy with that. And you're like, yeah, these are some cute girls and they stick around and you spend a bit of time with them, you know, then keep doing what you're doing. If you do it for 2 months and you don't get any girls, then go like, okay, maybe I need to be a little more open-minded. Maybe I should keep an open mind with some of the older women. And maybe I should also keep an open mind with some of the less experienced women. Now, I understand with conversations I've had with this guy that he doesn't particularly want to date girls who are like complete virgins.
Sure.
Because for him, he's just like, no, I need experience myself. I don't really want to be like a babysitter. Fair enough. I respect that.
I think for plenty of people, that's like, it's a pressure thing.
Yeah. And fair enough. But there are plenty of women in between. You like, as in, you can be more open-minded and still meet plenty of women that almost fit into what you're saying here.
Yeah.
So date girls who've only slept with like one guy or two guys, or date older women who've maybe got a little more experience than you. Maybe they've slept with 20 guys. Maybe they've had a long-term boyfriend and they've tried a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So the answer to the question will be, are you happy with how it's going? If not, okay, be a bit more open-minded. If you are happy, great. If you're ultra happy, like, you know, you sleep with 3 girls in the first month and you're like, shit, like, this is going really well, then you can be even more fussy if you want to. Like, go crazy with this. And this is kind of what you and I do. This is what I've done since, you know, starting to get laid. I get to a point, it just happens naturally. You don't even really have to do it. You don't do it on purpose. You get to a point where you have like enough women in your life and you're like, oh shit, I'm going to be more fussy. Because I can't, if the current route that I'm on right now, I'll just end up with like 10 girls that I'm sleeping with or something.
Yeah.
That's insane. Okay, I have to be more fussy. And then you get to a point where you're not seeing anyone, or you're only seeing one, and you think like, oh, I don't know, she might leave. Like, she's kind of on the fence here, or she's like a bit flaky or whatever. At that point, okay, I need to like keep an open mind.
Yeah.
See more girls. Open mind. It's almost like you're opening your dating pool. In the past, I've called that lowering your standards. I don't think that's a good way of phrasing it. And I think I'd like to redefine it here and say it's keeping an open mind. It's
framing in the negative when you say lowering your standards.
Yeah, because guys just hear that and they go, oh, watch, so I should sleep with a fatty. It's like, no. Take a deep breath. Keep an open mind. And kind of, open-mindedness is the best way of phrasing it. Like, be open to a girl that normally you would have screened out. Yeah. Again, that doesn't mean lower your standards, but we're talking about like slightly less experienced girls than maybe you want or you think you want. And maybe slightly more experienced girls than you think you want. Again, I'm not telling you to sleep with a virgin or a woman that's had sex with 100 guys. Sure. Both of those are extremes that, for this guy, he wouldn't enjoy either of those.
Of course.
No, I say that he might enjoy either of them, but fine. At this point in time, he's the enjoyment he could get out of it would probably be overshadowed by the fact that he'd be incredibly fucking intimidated or pressured or whatever you want to call it. And I don't know that at this stage that would even be good for him. I'd be like, you know, my main mission with this guy at this particular time is like, I just want you to have fun. Like the whole point of sex is fun. Like less pressure. As less pressure we can take off you, the better. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess with all of this stuff, you can't necessarily give definitive answers, but you can definitely go for like what, like statistically speaking, is going to kind of mean that you have a good time.
yeah,
Which I guess we can touch on with the
age.
yeah, like how do you screen for?
Yeah, so that's the second part of his question. Like basically, how do I screen for women who are roughly at my experience level? And you and I talked. Because he even said, obviously, I could just focus on younger women, but many younger women are more experienced than I am. And then there are also older women who are at my level. Yeah, but you got to kind of look at it in terms of like a dating pool, like you're saying, statistics. Younger women will statistically be roughly at your age group. Like we're talking like 18 to, I don't know, 23, maybe even 21, but up to 23,
have
even
similar
up to 25.
Because yes, the older you get, the more time you will have had the opportunity to get more experience.
Yeah. And that doesn't even mean sleeping with multiple partners. It's older women who are like 28 who've only slept with like 2 guys. They're still really experienced because they've probably done a fair bit with that. Now, that's not guaranteed. We meet plenty of women that have been in long-term relationships for like 4 years or something, and they've just never tried anything in the bedroom other than like missionary, vanilla, boring sex.
Yeah, and I think like literally just what you said, it's not guaranteed. So that's why I think earlier it was worth touching on, like keep an open mind, because none of this is like a sure bet. Like when you're looking at age correlating with experience, like there's more likely scenarios, but it's not an absolute.
Yeah. So I would definitely, and this was the first suggestion that you and I, or the first answer you and I came to, because we had a little chat about this last night. And the first thing we said was younger women, like 18 to 23 is probably just like, and that doesn't mean exclude the older women.
No.
And I guess I'm not even telling you to, here's how I would do it. I would change my age settings on Tinder and Hinge and Bumble if you're on there to 18 to 23. I would use all my super likes and my boosts on those girls. Like make sure you set 18 to 23 before you do every boost, and then, you know, use your 5 super likes or whatever on those girls in the age range. Then change it to 18 to 35 or whatever the hell you're happy to go with. 18 to fucking 50. 18 to 70. I remember when I was trying to get laid, I just put my thing to like 18 to 98 just to see what happened. You almost never see older women.
How old would you
have sex with?
Yeah.
Depends on the woman.
I know.
I think the oldest woman I ever had sex with was like 37, and I thought she was like 42.
How old were you at the time?
This was like when I was in the getting laid stages, so like 29.
42 is like mum age.
Yeah, it
like
did feel a bit
mum.
like I was fucking my mum. It was weird. It was an interesting story. I should tell more of these stories, shouldn't I? I do plan on doing, like, we talked about this, more like entertainment stories, like just random lays that I've had and like interesting stories. Basically, I met her on Craigslist. That was when I was getting laid with chicks on Craigslist.
God.
Shout outs to Craigslist.
It's not my era.
And she was like this dancer, like an international dancer, but like she didn't have a dancer's body.
Oh.
She was like not that attractive.
42-year-old, average 42-year-old.
She looked really good in a dress, but you take it off and it's just like...
Well, when you get older, it's
her fault for being... She was chubby.
Okay.
And she was like a dance teacher or something, and like she was talking about like, this is the first weekend without the kids, and like, you know, I was divorced like 6 months ago, and you're the first person I've met, and you know, I go on Craigslist sometimes to just read naughty ads, and like, you know, you compelled me, and like because we chatted for a little bit, and then we had sex and shit, and she wanted me to dominate her, and she talked a lot about that, and I was like super vanilla at that point.
Oh.
And so I was like spanking her, and I was like, well, this is not like, I knew some things to do.
Sure.
I'd done them like little bits and pieces. But yeah, I didn't see her again. She had like cool tattoos and stuff. Oh, that's right. That's the interesting part of the story. So she was telling me about this like other couples that she had talked to get like ideas from and stuff, other people on Craigslist. And like, there was one woman and she sent me all these pictures as well. She showed me all these pictures of like this other couple who like to use like kitchen utensils like inside the pussy, like, so like a whisk. And I was like, how does that even go inside, like an egg beater, I guess you call it that. Like, how does that go inside the pussy? But like, she showed me the picture, and I was like, and this woman was like this dancer woman was like really turned on. She really wanted to do that. She literally was like, can we get like the wooden spoon and the spatulas and like put them in me? And I was like, I mean, maybe next time. I don't know. That didn't turn me on at that point. There's lots of stuff that doesn't turn me on. Okay, there's like 3 things that don't turn me. I don't know. The way she did it was very clinical to me, and that's probably the part of the reason of the appeal. I'd do that shit now. I think it was okay. I'm not being self-aware here. It wasn't that wasn't hot, because I could see a world in which that is sexy.
Sure.
It was that I wasn't attracted to her. And I've had this discussion with quite a few like coaching clients and shit, where they're like, I just wasn't into. One guy in particular told me that a girl sent him nudes, and he was like, I just felt like it was really inappropriate. And I was like, a girl sending you nudes is inappropriate. That's awesome as shit. And then like we dug a little deeper, and he's like, do you know what? It might just be because I wasn't attracted to her. And I was like, yeah, well then like who wants nudes from a fatty? Like no one does.
Well, that's why like girls
don't want a fucking dick pic. If you're gonna put it, okay, guys, we're going off on such a tangent, but there's some fucking gold here, guys. If you want to send a dick pic, here's how you do it: send a full body nude, where your dick is just part of the appeal. Make sure you have some abs or something. You need to be attractive. Yeah, make sure you have some abs or something. I have tested this ages ago. Remember when we took the abs photo?
Yep.
And I was sending, which picture I'm talking about. The one where I'm like, I have abs, and I'm like, got my head shaved, and I'm holding my dick in my hand. It's hard. But the dick isn't like the main part of it. Sure. I'm clearly nude, and I'm holding my dick, and it's sexual, but like, you can see my abs in my body. Yeah. We use that. I send that picture to a bunch of chicks, and like, they like that way more than what I used to do before, which was just a dick pic.
Sure, because I will say just like a picture of a penis, it almost feels like a... clinical is a good word, because it's just like...
It's like you're showing a dildo, guys.
Yeah, this is like male anatomy. I'm not necessarily turned on by like that on its own. It's because it's attached to the person.
Yeah, remember, women are less visual. Now, that doesn't mean they're not visual. They're just less visual. We see like tits or a pussy. Shout outs to the guys who don't like pussy. Radical told me I put too many pussies on my website. He's like, I'm not really a big fan of like a close-up pussy, to be honest. I was like, what are you, fucking gay?
We've been with plenty of girls though, guys where they've said that like guys have been a bit funny about like
their pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Radical and I had a big conversation about that. I'm probably like sharing too much. No, he wouldn't give a shit. Where I said like, dude, but like the pussy looks pretty. And he's like, nah, man, I'm just not a fan, to be honest. And I was like, but you put your dick in it. And he's like, yeah. And like, someone else that we may be talking about like feels exactly the same, actually. Like there are plenty of guys. I'm actually surprised. I've talked to quite a few guys who are like, yeah, I like having sex. I don't know, the pussy just isn't like appealing to me. And I'm like, well, what do you do when you're having sex? They're like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm inside the girl. And I'm like, but you're inside her pussy. And they're like, no, it's more like I'm inside her. Like I like her, I'm attracted to her.
I think a lot of women have the same thing about
with
like
the dick.
Yeah. For me personally, not like I can.
You love a good dick. Look at this fucking whore sitting in a park talking about loving dicks. Anyway, back on track. Holy shit, that was a tangent. That was like a 15-minute tangent.
Lots of little
but that's what
stories
these Patreon episodes are. And we're sitting in a park. These park episodes are usually a little more like laid back and casual, entertainment, fun.
Might get some Australian nature sounds.
Yeah, you guys should be able to hear the birds in the background and the rain. It's died down now, but there's been rain. Where the fuck did we leave off? So, younger women...
Age, how to screen. How do you get what you want? So
I'd go more for the younger women, but keep an open mind.
I think the other thing that we spoke about too was like literally asking, like, second, third message.
Yep.
What have you tried? It doesn't have to be, so like, tell me exactly like your entire sexual history. It's like, you can ask like a vague, like, what are you into?
And lead into it. Don't, I mean, you can just say it if you want to, but if you want to know what to actually say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This guy knows it doesn't really matter, but you can kind of like lead into it a little bit. And, if your first message is like, yo, what's up? I'm looking for something like fairly casual. If you want to grab a drink, have a flirt, see if we click, that'd be great. And then from there, you can say something like, and rephrase this a little better, but I feel like this is decent enough. You could say something like, I'm looking for a girl who's looking to explore a little more and try some new things in the bedroom. Like, you can just say that. You don't even have to say that in the bedroom, but if you don't want to, it's up to you. So this is on Tinder for clarification. You could even put that in your first message instead of, I want something casual. You can be like, I'm looking for a girl who's looking to explore and try some new things. Mix it up a little bit. Like, keep it casual. Don't say like, a fucking whore who wants to like slut it up like a dumb bitch. Don't talk like that, gentlemen. Yeah. That's disrespectful to ladies. I would never disrespect a bitch. How many women listen? At this point, lots of women listen to this podcast, right?
Do they? Can you see
Yeah.
like the breakdown?
Yeah, there's lots of women that listen
What
to this
are
podcast.
the
I wonder how
percentage?
many of them know. How many of you ladies, leave a comment. First of all, are there? Say hello. There's a bird attacking me right now.
What sort of bird
Jesus.
is it cute?
It's a cute bird. How many ladies listen to the podcast right now? And then second of all, how many of you know I'm joking when I say the word bitches? And how many of you think that like, how many people tune in for the first time and hear my, I was going to say irreverent, but the correct word would probably be something like irrelevant, irrelevant humor, my horrible humor, and think like, man, who's this fucking asshole?
I will
Not
say,
knowing that I'm a
there's
sweet little teddy bear.
definitely certain episodes, like if it's your first episode, like
Oh yeah,
it will
probably like every second episode you shouldn't listen to if it's your first one, and you have no idea. It's a minefield. I'm screening. I'm screening hard for I don't know what, but I'm screening everyone out. That's the main thing. I'm probably screening a lot of people in, to be honest. Anyway, back on track. Let's pull it in, rein it back in. We get off track with these ones,
Yeah.
but that's part of the fun, part of the joy. So, yeah, on Tinder, just saying, I'm looking for a girl who wants to explore a little more, try some new things, mix it up. And that will kind of get her thinking. And then you can say, like, is there anything you've always wanted to try? Or you can say, like, what stuff have you tried? And is there anything you really want to try? That will quickly give you an answer as to her experience level.
Yeah.
Like, if she says, like, mate, I've tried everything. How dare you ask me that question? What haven't I tried? Then you're like, okay, maybe she's a little too much for me.
Sure.
Or not what I'm looking for at this point in time. If she says, like, to be honest, I haven't tried much of anything, you can be like, oh, well, I do this a lot. This is basically how you find out that a girl is a virgin, right? She'll say, to be honest, I haven't tried a whole lot. And then you're like, oh, well, you've had, like, normal sex, right?
Yeah, you
And
just
then-
ask, like, what does not a whole lot mean?
Yeah. What is not a whole... Well, what stuff have you tried? Sometimes if you want to make it easier for her, just say what I said. What I usually say that. I usually say, like, well, you've had normal sex, right? Well, you've had, like, sex, yeah? And some of them will be like, yeah, of course, you know. And others will be like, to be honest, like, no. And then there you go. Now you know. And so if you get these girls, I understand, like, you're not looking for a virgin. So send them our way. We like virgins. We like to teach them. Tell them to take a trip to Australia.
Big trip.
Yeah, big trip. And you probably can't get in the country. You have to quarantine for, like, 2 weeks.
At your own expense.
And the police will finger your butthole 7 days a week.
That won't happen, but...
It might happen. You don't fucking know. Mask me harder, daddy. You have to wear a mask the whole time. Not when you get here, though. After the 14 days.
Anyway.
So, yeah, that's what you can do on Tinder. You don't have to do that. And again, change this or experiment with different things depending on how happy you are with your current results. So what I just said, it's not hardcore screening, but you're obviously going to screen a few girls out, because a few girls will be like, no, like, he's obviously, like, looking for something sexual. He said something sexual right off the bat. Not what I'm looking for. If you take it a little slower and don't say what we just said, you just do the normal messages, get her number, go on a date, and then mention it on the date, you'll obviously have more women, but then you have the not challenge, but now you're in the position where a lot of the girls that you go on a date with, you will then find out that they're super experienced or a virgin. Yeah.
And again...
And that's not a bad thing. Like, you'll get more options doing that. So you will have a few girls that you're like, oh, nah, I'm not going to see her for a second date. If you're fine with that, go for it. That will obviously get you slightly more girls because you'll be screening out slightly less. Over the long time, you'll get laid less. But at this point in time, it's like beggars can't be choosers if you're not happy with your current results.
Yeah, it really is a matter of, like, how firmly do you want to stick to the preferences that you have?
Yeah. And remember, again, quick lesson for everyone. The reason why I screen very hard at the start on Tinder and why I gently push all of you guys to eventually get there as well is that gets you laid more in the long run with less games, less time wasting, less, like, going on dates with girls that aren't sexually compatible with you.
Yeah, just
it's
more
like,
enjoyment. Less of those, like, you see them once, you're like,
yeah.
okay.
You're really hardcore screening for the girls that want what you want, like sex, casual sex, whatever it is you guys are looking for. If it's a relationship, you can do the same shit. You can screen for a relationship, sure. But if you're at a point where you're not happy with your results, then yeah, don't screen as hard. Because obviously screening means that you will filter out more women.
Yeah.
Now, we like doing that because that helps us get laid more. Like, you do end up getting laid more because you're wasting less time. But if you're at a point where you don't have a lot of options, yeah, don't screen as hard. Like, You know,
Yeah. And
again, this is like an experimentation thing. You got to see what you're happy with.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what will make you happy.
Yeah. And I think you've made this point in various articles, but from time to time, if you're not screening as hard, you will get pleasant surprises. Obviously, if you don't have
really good point.
or don't want time, like your time to be wasted, or you don't want to fuck around, like that's, you know.
Yeah. If you're on a mission, if you're already getting the results you want and you're on a mission, which is what you and I are right now, we screen like fucking crazy. We are so hard screening.
We just don't really have time to meet girls.
Yeah, I don't have time to go on a date. We don't.
Yeah.
Like, that's a night wasted. Are you serious? I could have recorded like 3 podcasts. You could have done like marketing for me. Like, we could have done so much if we waste a night. Like that, we can't be doing that. That's why we're even at a point where before we even meet a girl from Tinder, we will literally say, like, we'll send them some nude pictures of us, and then we'll say, like, would you like to show us something? And if she says, like, no, I'd really rather not, then we politely say, like, look, understand, but that's like a deal breaker. We like to know what people look like, you know.
Not some girls.
The only 2 we met were virgins. If they're a virgin or really inexperienced and they don't want to, fine. Like, we'll still meet them because, like,
they don't have to be naked either. It's usually just like
something
that
shows the body. So
Sure.
basically, so we can. It's almost like we're getting a sample before, like making sure that we're attracted to her before we meet up.
Yeah.
Again, because we just don't really have time to go on a date with a girl that we're, you know, into. We get into her, we have a good chat, we like her, we take her back home, and then we're not attracted, like we're not crazy attracted to her. I guess we have higher standards at this point. Again, I think it's because we're super busy. And I think this is something we'll probably do a little bit less of maybe as I handle my financial goals. We get to a point where we're a little more relaxed with my coaching and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You're
sure.
having to do less hardcore marketing and stuff to push my website.
We can kind of
We can relax again and just afford to afford to have a nice evening with a girl that at the end of it, maybe you're like, yeah, no, we're not going to do this again, but it was really nice meeting you.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about it, but like dates, because we're both kind of in the middle of being a little bit stressed and we've got other things on our mind, they're not necessarily fun. It's kind of just like...
It's almost like a mission that we're on when we do a date.
Yeah.
Like, we're like, okay, we want to quickly get to the point where, like, we have another girl that sees us and is, like, into us. And, like, we want to jump to the, great, now we're dating you.
Yeah.
And we're always trying to skip everything before that. Like, even the sex. This isn't even, funnily enough, it's not even that we're trying to, like, jump to quick sex. It's like we're trying to jump to, yeah, she's really into us and now she's reliable and she'll come and meet us whenever, like, you know, once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Ongoing.
Yeah, we're trying to jump to the relationship part. Yeah, ongoing, friends with benefits, whatever you want to call it. So
Anyway.
he goes, so that answers that question. In terms of, like, girls that you talk to, you can do this one or 2 ways. You can do the same sort of thing, like you get her number, you have a normal chat when you say hey. So as in girls you talk to in person that you meet on the street or at a bar, whatever. You can just have a normal conversation, and then you can do 1 or 2 things. When you get her number, you can just have a normal conversation, say like, yo, like, you know, are you free Friday night at 6? Let's grab that drink. Go have your drink and then talk about like sexual experience and stuff. If you want to screen a little harder so that you're having less of your time wasted, just bearing in mind that you will filter a few girls out, in your first message you can say, by the way, so your first message would be like, hey, it's me, it's Andy, great meeting you today, you know, save my number or whatever. And then your next message you can say like, by the way, I'm looking for something like, you know, casual but ongoing with a woman that wants to explore herself and in the bedroom and mix it up a little bit, try some new things. What have you tried? Is there anything in particular you want to try?
Yep.
And so that will obviously screen a few girls out. A few of them will be like, oh, it's a little too upfront for me. That's fine. Some of the girls will stick around and be like, yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I'd love to explore some things. I've tried a little bit of stuff, but not much. Or, you know, I've had a little bit of experience, but not a lot. You can also just do this on the date if you want.
Yeah.
Like we said, we kind of hinted at it before. That will obviously mean you'll be on a few dates with girls that you screen out on the date. If you're fine with that, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to be okay with, like, I may go on some dates and, like, I find out then she's a virgin, or I find out she's, like, crazy experienced, like, super experienced, and I'm not into that. Fine. Like, that's going to happen, right? And so on the date, you can just really bring up sex. That's all I'd do. Like, a lot of guys struggle with talking about sex, but if you force yourself to do it a few times, I really did too. It was nerve-wracking for me. You do it, like, with 5 different girls or 5 times or whatever, and then at that point, you're like, well, it's just another topic. Like saying, what are your hobbies? And you're like...
I think you've mentioned this before as well. Like, I think... an easy way to, I guess, ease into it is asking, like, do you have any, like, bad date stories or, like,
What's your best dating story? What's your weirdest dating story? Have you ever met a weird guy from Tinder? I asked that to most of the girls that we meet.
Yeah, and that very easily leads into like sex and
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it. Honestly, that's the easiest way. You just be like, okay, you got to tell me your wildest dating story or your worst dating story. And pretty much everyone has one.
Yeah.
I do ask that of pretty much every girl, right? That we meet when we're in the bar. I ask that question. I love that question. They give us weird ones like, oh,
it's always
I
interesting.
headbutted someone in the vagina. Remember that was the other girl that we said. She said like my only bisexual experience. I headbutted her in the vagina, and I felt really like, because girls say vagina instead of pussy.
I only
Girls
really
are weird.
only
Just say what it is.
started
I headbutted her cunt.
saying that.
I headbutted her fucking quim.
Having
Her
met
snatch.
you, no one
Her
says
vertical
quim.
smile. Her piranha. Her flesh. Her hidden dungeon.
You have
Her
a giant
chamber of secrets. I have a big list of like hundreds of
euphemisms,
these.
don't
Yeah,
you?
I can keep going for an hour.
Yeah.
So if you're on the date, yeah, just segue into it through that. Like, you know, if you got any weird dating stories, any bad dating stories, any horror dating stories, she'll tell you hers, you tell her yours. Then you say like, you know, you just like segue into it. It'll be a little awkward the first few times you do it. You'll see that it's fine. It's just a topic.
Yeah.
You
Once
say,
you
like, is there
start
anything-
talking about it, it's fine.
Yeah. Just then segue into like, do you have any like crazy bedroom stories? Is there anything like wild you've done in the bedroom? Is there anything that you've like really wanted to do in the bedroom that you've never actually tried? What's on your bucket list? You can even just say that. What's on your sexual bucket list? Is there anything like you really want to try in the bedroom? She might tell you like one or two coy little things. You tell her what's on yours, because she'll always ask like, what's on yours? And you can be like, well, you know, I want to have a pigeon watch me fuck a girl. You know what I mean? Like some people are into that. It's called pigeon voyeurism, pigeon exhibitionism.
Oh,
Where
wow.
the pigeon watch you finger a girl. It's
I
hot.
wasn't
It's
aware
really
that was a...
Yeah, because you're a
subgenre.
closed-minded fucking bigot. And from there, you can just segue into like, what stuff have you tried? Have you had a lot of experience? Or maybe don't say it like that, but it doesn't even matter if you say it like that. It really doesn't matter. Just say like, just start talking about experience levels. And she'll probably ask about you. You can just say like, do you feel like you've had a lot of experience, or do you feel like you want more, or like where you at?
Yeah.
And then you can tell her like, yeah, I've been with like a handful. If you're comfortable saying the number, I usually just say the number. I tell most people to just say the number. I think it's easier rather than, you know, just say, oh, it's like roughly 10 girls or something I've been with at this point. If you're not comfortable with that, just say like, you know, it's like a handful at this point.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do. Most girls, you'll find, if you're honest, are actually comfortable telling you the number. When I first started asking girls, I was surprised by how many would tell me. And now I obviously take it with a grain of salt, right? But like, just like you take a guy's number with a grain of salt, because his is going to be triple and hers is going to be like, he's going to give you triple the actual number.
Triple.
Yep,
Triple
and
a
she's
lot.
going to give you 1/3 of the actual number. That's the red pill joke.
I actually, when I met you, because I thought you would be unattracted to somebody less experienced, I doubled.
Such a fucking loser. But yeah, that's the funny thing. We could have a conversation about that. A lot of girls like will literally say like, you know, I've only been with 3 girls. Is that 3 guys? Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like, I like less experience because it means I get to teach you. We get to explore. It's like fun. But yeah, a lot of girls have the actual insecurity that most guys would hear that and be like, what? But yeah, it's funny how many things are backwards from what you would initially on a surface level suspect. Like how many things are the reverse, especially like with girls, where a guy will think like, I bet you girls do this, and then it's like, no, they do, like the exact opposite is true. I bet you girls would never be insecure about this, and it's like, yes they are. Like,
So I should just have conversations with people.
yeah. So in terms of his Tinder profile and photos, I don't think he needs to change them at all. Just keep doing, because changing them and trying to, like, first of all, I don't even know how you change them to look for a girl who's at your experience level.
Yeah, I feel like that's too specific.
It's
and
just- it's
photos
not-
can't.
I don't
convey
know
that.
how you overlap for that. The only way to get there is to ask them, literally. I think that's the only way. Remember that there are plenty of virgin girls who sleep with me and Imogen
Yeah.
when we scream experience.
Well, I think
Our
that's the
profile
appeal.
literally says we are extremely good at teaching. We're extremely good at BDSM and we're great at teaching.
But I think teaching's the key word there.
Yeah.
That
We literally have
attracts.
pictures of fucking BDSM. We look confident. Our messages are crazy confident. We're clearly extremely experienced, and we screen in very experienced women and very like literal virgin women. Like
Yeah.
everyone matches with us. the same thing before when I was just by myself and I wasn't doing BDSM, but I had really good attractive pictures. I would get some virgins, I would get some girls in the middle, I'd get experienced women. And so the one thing that matters most is having the best looking pictures you can, having the most sex appeal, the edgiest profile, if you want to call it that. Sex appeal is just a better way of saying it. Chris from Good Looking Loser always used to say edginess, but I think sex appeal is just a more, because you hear edgy and you're like,
the word edgy has evolved.
I know. Yeah, I get what he meant. He just meant like a little something to you, a little edge to you. It is the correct word, but sex appeal is a better. Sex appeal just like most people resonate better with that. So getting to a point where you have abs. This guy's already taking those kind of pictures, not abs, but like he's got pictures with girls. Like he's shooting pictures with models. Quite a few of my clients actually at this point. There's like 5 guys. I lie, 5 guys. All inspired by this guy, funnily enough, have all started like, these are coaching clients of mine and one guy on the forums who've all started taking photos with models, like literally hiring a model for like $50, $100 or whatever, hiring a photographer, and then taking a bunch of like actual modeling photos where you look like you're a fucking model. You look like you're on the cover of Vogue or some shit or some like, Vogue's not the right example, but like.
Vogue's can be a bit too avant-garde.
Yeah. Some like edgy, and these are girls with like tattoos that look really hot. They're like fucking hot chicks, and so it's like
point
perfect.
being, it just makes you look confident and experienced.
You look like
attractive.
a fucking badass. Are you serious? Like you literally got girls on your arm that are really attractive. If nothing else, you look like a model yourself as well.
Sure.
Because you have to learn to model to do that. Yeah. So any changes to his method when approaching women in person? No, not really. Just like I said, either messaging your first, second or third message or whatever. You just mentioned what I said before, like what's your experience level? Or sorry, I'm looking for a girl who wants to explore a little more in the bedroom, try some new things, mix it up a bit. Like, is there stuff you've always wanted to try? Or like, is this, what stuff have you tried? You can do that, or you can just wait for the date. What things should I say when I message or talk to them? So we just covered that. What questions should I ask them on dates? So really just what we said before, just segue into it. There's a train in the background. That's going to be super loud, isn't it? Segue into it and just sort of say, what's your wildest dating story, or tell me your worst dating story. Like, come on, just tell me the most fucked up one. Like, I love asking it like that. Just tell me like the craziest, most fucked up. And then from there, just segue into, okay, what's the craziest shit that you've ever done in the bedroom? Or like, is there any crazy shit you've ever done in the bedroom? What's on your bucket list? What do you want to try? How much stuff have you tried? Like, have you tried a lot, or you feel like you haven't really tried much? Like, you feel like kind of a newbie, like a virgin? Are you a virgin? Have you ever had a cock in you? You bitch. Don't talk like that. It's disrespectful to women, okay? I will never disrespect a woman. Jokingly. Freud would say the fact that I make all these jokes means that I secretly hate women. And guess what I would say? Freud can suck a fat cock. Nah, Freud's alright. Sigmund Freud, he's alright. He's a good lad. Carl Jung, he's where it's at.
I think it would just speak to the fact that you like being controversial. And
yeah, for sure. Don't dig too deep into it. Future archivists in 200 years digging through, going like, let's explore the mind of Andy, who was a world leader, innovator, changed the world with his podcast about pussies and dicks and putting them together. So I think that answers pretty much all the question.
Yes.
Should we do a little summary? Basically, you're probably best going for younger girls.
Yep.
18 to 23, 18 to 25. I would just change your age, and when you're talking to girls in person, like target mostly those girls. Also keep an open mind a little bit if you're not happy with your results, and after you've used all your boosts and your super likes and all that to the younger chicks, then open it up to the older girls as well.
Sure.
Just be open-minded. You can screen them the same way you're doing with the younger girls. What's your experience level like? Figure that out through that talking that we said. Either message them on Tinder, asking, as like your second or third message, I'm looking for a girl who wants to mix it up a little bit, try some new things in the bedroom, explore herself. That's a really good way of phrasing it, explore herself in the bedroom. Girls love that shit. Rather than saying like, guys make this mistake quite a bit, and I know this guy won't because he gets this, but a lot of guys phrase it like, with me. Like, I want a girl who wants to explore in the bedroom with me. This is really good psychology with women. Put it more on her. So rather than say like, do you want to explore in the bedroom with me? Do you say, do you want to explore yourself in the bedroom? And then she'll sit there and go like, oh yeah. And then, oh, you could be the guy to do that. I don't know why it works well. I guess we could dig deep, but that's always worked like infinitely better for me and everyone who tries that shit. Like just,
it's almost like
you're giving her
you don't
something.
have to make a promise. There's no like commitment. You're not saying, yes, I want to do that with you. It's like, yeah, that's something I want to do. Never said I want to do it. Like
you're somehow more open-minded to it. Because if I say, do you want to explore yourself in the bedroom? You'll be like, that is something I want to do. But if I say, do you want to explore with me in the bedroom? Now you're like, well, I have like, if I'm not crazy into you, or now you're putting me on the spot basically.
Again, it seems like you need to make like a commitment or like a promise. Like you're saying like, yes, I will have sex with you basically.
It's more pressure. No, that's what the difference is. It's more pressure. If I say, do you want to explore in the bedroom with me? It's like, shit, that's pressure. He has expectations. He expects me to explore with him. If you just say, do you want to explore yourself in the bedroom? It's less pressure. I'm not saying you have to do that with me right now. It's more like an open-ended, vague thing of like, yeah, I think I would like to explore myself a little more. And then she can slowly open up to that with you. Sure. If you say, do you want to explore with me? She's like, what, right now? Yeah. I don't know why that works. That's probably the best explanation I can come up with, but that always works a lot better. So I would phrase it like that, yeah. I'm looking for a girl that wants to explore herself a little more in the bedroom, try some new things, mix it up. Explore herself.
Yeah.
And girls always talk like that too. If you read their novels and listen to the way they talk about sex and stuff, they talk about like, I was getting in touch with my roots and exploring my sexuality and like, finding myself. They always talk like that. Like it's very inner focused. Women do that a lot. They're very like introspective, or they talk like they're introspective in terms of that. Even though they're going out and having sex with other people, a lot of the time they talk about like themselves and how it made them feel. The Red Pill talks about that a lot, that women are very like self-focused, I guess.
I don't disagree with that.
A lot of the
I
time.
think most people are pretty self-focused.
Yeah, but like women more so. You talk more like I and my, like my experience and I, whereas men tend to like look outside about that. It's probably just an element of like the way you're raised, honestly. Like if you're a woman, you get more attention on you. So of course you're going to like talk more about you, and people care more about your feelings, and your feelings are stronger. So of course you're going to say like, I feel this. Whereas as a man, you kind of figure out relatively early that like your feelings aren't the be all and end all. And they're just like one input, like one piece of information. And then you take like statistics and logic and, thinking and other people's input and all that, and you put it all together in this hodgepodge, and then you decide what you're going to do. Whereas a lot of the time women are like, I feel, so I'm going to do that.
Sure. This was another big tangent when we were meant to be summarizing. But...
We did summarize. We summarized everything. So go out there and have some sexual intercourse with people of the same experience level as you. And I guess just like I said, keep an open mind, and if you feel like you're not happy, that'll probably be the takeaway here. We gave you instructions on what to actually do. But one of the big takeaways will be, if you're at a point where you feel like you're just screening out too many girls and you're not happy, then just be a little more open-minded. Maybe go for some of those girls who are less experienced. Because we could have had a whole tangent on this. Experienced doesn't necessarily mean confident.
It doesn't also necessarily mean set in like what they want. Like, doesn't mean closed-minded.
Yeah. And basically what he wants here... He doesn't want a girl who's one side of the extreme and a virgin and he has to do everything. He also doesn't want the complete opposite, where she's like crazy experienced and he feels like he can't live up to that. And there's a sense of like, well, why would she have sex with me? Like she's had it 20 times before, and probably better because the guys knew what they were doing. So he's basically avoiding those two extremes. But experience doesn't necessarily, like experience level doesn't necessarily 100% overlap with those two Venn diagrams. I'm not explaining that correctly, but like a girl who's only slept with one or two guys can still have your level of like confidence. And really what you're looking for here is confidence. Experience is the best measure of that. So yes, screen for experience, but I guess just be a little more open-minded that even if a girl's only slept with like two guys, she may be at your level of like confidence and willingness to take the lead. Yeah. Because basically he wants a girl that'll meet him halfway, where he doesn't have to do everything, but also she doesn't do everything.
Yeah.
He wants like a push-pull, like 50-50, roughly. Maybe I think he knows that he's probably going to have to do like 75% of it. He just doesn't want to have to do 100% of it. Fair enough. There are plenty of girls with only like 1 or 2 sexual partners who will give you 50%. I mean, for fuck's sakes, there's virgins who will, maybe not the first time you have sex with them. And so fair enough, you don't want to date a virgin, fine. But there are virgins that quickly get to a point where they're giving you just as much. Remember that Vietnamese girl that I told you I had sex with? And the first time we had sex, it was actually pretty decent. She was a virgin. She'd never kissed anyone. She never held hands or anything. And she was pretty decent the first time. And then the second time, she was a fucking like banshee. She was like a succubus. Like, yeah, she was like giving me the best blowjob ever. She like jumped on top of me and started riding me and moaning and shit. And afterwards I was like, what the fuck was that? And she's like, she was really shy about it. And then like finally I got it out of her after asking her like 15 times that she'd gone and watched a bunch of porn to research so that she could do a good job for me. That's a girl who'd only had sex with me once. And so you will occasionally find, more than you think you will, girls who don't have much experience but are very willing to meet you halfway or even go above and beyond. Like this girl went above and beyond. That's insane. She went above and beyond. She did research and then fucking fucked my brains out. And then sometimes the opposite. You'll get a woman who's had like plenty of experience, but she's still very like almost shy and a bit more submissive.
Yeah, it can come down to personality for sure.
Yeah. Now, I understand again that experience level is the best measure that you have to go by. It's the best metric you can use, so definitely stick with that. I'm just saying keep a little more of an open mind. Realize that some virgin girls or not virgins, some inexperienced girls will be at your level of confidence and will give you the sex you want, because this is really just a way of you getting the sex you want. And yes, we've gone down this rabbit hole where experience is the best metric to measure that by, fine. But at the end of the day, if you're happy with the sex, you won't really care that like, oh, well, she's only slept with 2 guys before me. And I said I wanted girls that have slept with like around my level. Like, you won't care. You'll just be like, nah, sex with her is great. Like, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Same with the super experienced woman who doesn't care that you've only slept with, like, I say only, that you've slept with 10 girls and she slept with like, 20 men or 30 men or whatever. She won't care. Like, there'll be plenty of girls that don't care. I know he knows that. I know that this is just his best metric, and he's talked about this. Like, he's fairly open-minded anyway. He slept with more experienced women and less experienced women. But yeah, keep that open mind for anyone else listening. Again, guys, we'll wrap it up there. We'll do a shout-out. I should stop saying we'll do a shout-out when I do a shout-out. I don't think that's how you shout out.
You just start by saying...
You just say shout-outs to my Patreon. So if you want me to answer or us, or I can do it by myself, or I can get this woman here on it again. To dedicate an entire episode to you and any questions you have. You can ask plenty of questions. This guy has like fucking 10 questions. Although he called it 2 questions and then just put second question. And then he wrote like 12 questions in that question. That doesn't count. But go crazy. Like, ask as many questions as you want, whatever. And I'll do a whole podcast episode on that. Join my Patreon. patreon.com/killyourinnerloser. I'll leave a link in the description below to that. Come say hey. You support the show. I really appreciate that. You also get bonus content. Like I write articles on there sometimes. They're little short articles, but like little bits of motivation and stuff. You get all my episodes of this show. It's like 3 weeks early at this point, which is fucking insane because I'm like 3 weeks ahead on the podcast. So if like... It's funny because there's guys who listen to my stuff on Patreon. There's like 20 Patreons on there now, which is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. And so there's 20 of them that like will say like, man, great episode. And then everyone else is like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's like they have to wait 3 weeks. Or people who comment on a podcast that we did like 3 weeks ago because they're now only just seeing it. Whereas all the Patreons already talked about it and, and...
Yeah, we've almost forgotten about it.
Yeah, the normies will talk about it and they'll be like, great episode. And then I'm like, what the fuck was that episode? That was like 3 weeks ago I recorded that. So if you want to kind of be on this journey with me, I guess would be the best way of phrasing it. Like literally at the same day I release this shit, like come sign up for Patreon. It does feel a bit more like a club. I'm pretty happy with how it's going. Like there are more people on there. People are starting to comment from now on. So yeah, send us a message on Patreon. Say hello. Come join. Good shit. Good tidings to you and your family. Now go get laid, ladies and gentlemen.